Welcome back to Uprise Astrology Podcast, friends. I already had the chart up. We're ready to rock and roll. We have a full moon in Pisces that is going to be happening on September 10th. And I am here live with you today to talk all about what this full moon is going to bring us. September is quite the moody month. If you have not checked out my Virgo season video, I want you to check that out. The link will be in the description box here, or you can always, look on my channel. Virgo season is going to be really moody and really edgy, and there's a lot of conversations that are going to start to unfold that will really impact the next 6 to 7 months. The reason I say that is because Mars is in Gemini now. Mars moved into Gemini on August 20th, and it's going to be here for 74 days. 7 to 8 months, you guys. Send help. What is going to happen? I don't know. But we are going to get through this together. So I have prepared a little report for all of the 12 signs. We're going to briefly just pin down what this full moon is about, what I'm seeing that is going to be really important, and how to use this energy to make it work for yourself, to help you kind of navigate through what is building from now until all the way to this full moon. And then we're going to dive into all of the 12 signs. We're going to pull up the chart and see what that means for you so that you can kind of help yourself use the energies in a way that, work for you or help you prepare or however you want to use it. If you are here for the very first time, welcome. Also, welcome to all of the new subscribers. I see you. Thank you so much for being here. If you are here for the first time, I would love for you to hang out with me. My name is Aylin Sky. I'm an astrologer and numerologist. I focus on forecasts and other spiritual topics on my channel. I just want to share a little bit about myself. Actually, astrology has been in my life for a really long time, but I really didn't come out of the astrology closet until about 2016, I would say. And during that time, I owned a yoga studio, and I went through a lot of sort of turmoil in my life because I started to realize after my grandfather passed away that I don't want to own a physical yoga studio anymore. I had owned it for 8 years. And then from that moment forward, I actually, moved away from Colorado, moved to Florida, and then I ended up getting sick with mold illness. And that's a story for another time, but it's taking me several years to kind of be healthy enough to come onto this channel and to do reports on the regular. And so I'm so excited to be able to really give this astrology energy and pay it forward now on this channel because I love astrology. Astrology has saved my life. And I will tell a little bit more of that story another time in another video. But that was a little bit about myself. If you like this content, I would love for you to hang out with me. Let's hang out, subscribe. Make sure that you ring the notification bell because that's the only way that you're going to know that I'm putting out any kind of forecast. Sometimes we could be subscribing to a channel, but if we don't ring the bell, then it doesn't notify you. So you want to make sure that you ring that bell. And then if you like this video, always give it a thumbs up because that helps me. Share it with the people in your life that would appreciate this information as well. So we are going to dive into the forecast here. So Pisces is the opposite sign of Virgo. We're going to be obviously in Virgo season. The full moon is going to peak in Pisces at 17 degrees. What does that mean? 17 degrees, when we have Pisces and Virgo involved, there are three things that I narrowed it down for you guys that will be really important to keep in mind. The first thing is connection to faith. Pisces has a lot to do with the cosmos, the God consciousness, the parts of our life that bring everything sort of into an understanding, but beyond it, because there is a part of us that has to believe and then ultimately have faith in what it is that we're believing in. But then that faith is actually more of a conviction. It is something that we just know to be true. It is a life-giving type of connection. So when we think about this Pisces Virgo full moon, we can think about a connection to faith, especially at 17 degrees. 17 degrees is a very spiritual degree. On top of it being in the Pisces Virgo, axis, it is a very spiritual degree. So it's a highly spiritual full moon. We could totally say that. Now, the other thing that I think that Pisces can oftentimes represent is, what is not meaningful, the things that we realize later on after we get into a situation or after we have had a circumstance that has unfolded in our life. What part about that did not matter? What part about that is not in our life, the meaning that it needs to be, or doesn't hold the meaning that it needs to be? What was actually really important? So letting go during this time of a meaningless or hopeless sort of situation could be coming up. That's what I'm seeing here, because Virgo is about essentiality. Virgo is about the intellectual awareness of a situation, and then how useful is it actually? So coupled with Pisces at 17 degrees, this is about really just letting go of meaningless situations, of hopeless situations that just don't make any sense. So what we're seeing here is that Pisces Virgo at 17, connection to faith, letting go of meaningless, hopeless situations. And then ultimately, there is a part of us that I believe that even after this full moon, as we're starting to kind of let go and integrate what it is that we've learned through this particular month, we are going to kind of recap on the meaning of our life. What is really the meaning of our life? What is it that we know to be true? And we just kind of settle more into it. We integrate more into it. And that is what the beauty of this Pisces Virgo full moon, I believe, is going to bring us. Now, we are going to pull up the chart because I want to show you what else is going to be happening at the time as the full moon. So you see the chart here for September 10th. This full moon is going to be unfolding fairly early at 6 a.m. in the morning. This is Eastern Standard Time. I live in Florida, so you want to make sure that you calculate for where you are at, your time zone. So we see that Sun in Virgo at 17. We see the moon at 17. And then also, it is, I wouldn't really necessarily call this a conjunction because it's not a really tight conjunction. It might count as one. Neptune will be very close to that moon as well. We do want to talk about that because what is happening at the time of the full moon is that Neptune will be at 24, forming a trine to Black Moon Lilith at 5 degrees in Leo. So I think that this is really important because, Neptune is going to be conjunct the moon, but it's Jupiter that is going to be trining the trine to Black Moon Lilith. So Jupiter is going to be in Aries at 5 degrees. It's going to trine over to Black Moon Lilith at 5 degrees in the sign of Leo. And so this is going to be really important to talk about because there is a moment here where Neptune is helping being with the moon together emotionally for us to discover with that Jupiter trine to Black Moon Lilith, where we in the past would have not been able to kind of open up or expand to become more confident. There is a part of us that is going to realize that we have this opportunity to walk on to the other side to not repeat that same kind of feeling again, that same kind of hopelessness situation, that same kind of situation that felt sort of faithless. We are in a position during this full moon where we're able to really step into a nice sort of letting go of situations in our life that just are not life giving, not meaning giving to what it is that we're doing. There could be something highlighted during this full moon that seems super superficial. Okay, this is really, really important to talk about. The reason I say that is because the 17th degree, it can talk about two very important subjects, 17 in general. It's about superficiality or faith. It's either or. Okay. It's a deeply, deeply spiritual number. It actually used to be known in the ancients used to refer actually to this number as the star of the magi or magi. I don't know how to pronounce that in English. And it has a direct correlation actually to the story of the three wise men and the first mention of the star in Matthew's chapter 2. So a very spiritual number. Okay. Now the other thing is that Pisces, again, it brings up something that's sort of hidden, a hidden meaning. Now, coupled with that Neptune in the picture, it is definitely going to highlight something that we did not realize before, that we're going to realize now, something that was sort of hidden. We weren't able to see it. And so Neptune comes into the picture with that moon, and it's going to start to bring that out. It's going to start to bring that into your periphery, but it's more on an emotional realm. It's a very deeply sort of profound experience you could be making in a situation where you didn't realize before. Like maybe I was just not looking at that situation the right way or whatever it is, right? It dissolves. Neptune dissolves here. Pisces in Neptune and Pisces is going to be about being able to sort of, see what's behind certain facades or superficial situations. And the other thing I do want to say is that for some of you, you could actually be in a setting around the full moon where you could be noticing this in the exchanges with other people. So if you're going to a place or if there's some kind of gathering that is going to be happening, because 17 degrees is like what you're doing in the day to day. So it could be you really having that experience with other people and an exchange with another person where you start to realize, wow, this is a sort of what was hidden to me is that this relationship is, or the circumstance or the situation is just super superficial. Like I'm not getting what it is that I need. And so you're able to sort of take that and make a shift into what is actually life-giving, what is actually abundant in your life. Where do you want to focus? So then as a result, what comes out of it as soon as we start to realize that is a connection to the meaning of our life. So we're kind of coming back home to this faithful place, this connection to why we're here, what we're doing, and what's really beautiful about life, but in the eternal sense. Okay. So that's what I'm seeing here. I also feel like there is sort of the opposite that can happen, right? There can be a faithlessness being pointed out. There can be a hopelessness being pointed out. And sort of this kind of an energy where you could experience for a brief moment, wow, the world is really not going in the direction that I thought it would. Like everything is going to crap. Everything is just sort of going to be in a place where it feels like hopelessness or whatever. This could come up as well because we always, with a full moon, we always want to take a look at what we need to integrate here. There's two opposite sort of energies that are coming into play that we are working out. And so this is where we understand some, profound aspects of our life that show us what we need to do now, how we need to let this go, why we need to let this go, so that we can cut the cord with that and sort of bring something life-giving, something that is the representation of the ever expanding life experience, faith, the connection to faith. So this is what we're taking a look at. The last thing I do want to point out here with Virgo at 17, and also that trine from Jupiter, 5 degrees in Aries, the trine to Black Moon Lilith at 5 degrees. The other thing that comes up here is that there are some very important things that are very personal to you at this time that bubble up to the surface. Okay, they're going to change the course of everything. Like life is changing. That's the feeling behind this trine of Jupiter being in Aries at 5 to Black Moon Lilith at 5 in Leo. And that Virgo sun at 17 is totally supporting this aspect here by saying huge release, okay? Huge release of these emotions that bubble up. I didn't realize that these are the things that were holding me back, or these are the things that, I was tolerating up until this point, and it wasn't allowing for me to pivot. It wasn't allowing for me to be more confident in my life. It wasn't allowing for me to really just feel joy in my life and do the things that I want to do. That is what this Jupiter in Aries trine to Black Moon Lilith is going to bring out. Black Moon Lilith is a representation of what holds us back at times. And very often it's not a real thing, but when we're holding on to a particular energy, thought, emotion, it can occur as so real. But what's happening here is that Jupiter is expanding, sort of exposing what's not real about that and what is releasing at this time. And you basically able to see where you're holding yourself back and why that is happening. Because Jupiter is in Aries, and this is a pioneering energy. This is an energy where we're going to step into that new picture. That's the opportunity here. But we have to work out what are some of the things that we need to, cut loose that are not life-giving. And that is essentially what this entire full moon, in my opinion, is going to be about. And I want to hear from you guys, as this is unfolding. What are you experiencing? Leave a comment below. What are you experiencing? How are things unfolding for you? And the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go right into the 12 zodiac signs. So I'm going to start with Virgo because the ascendant is right here on Virgo. We're just going to go ahead and start there. Happy birthday to all of my Virgos. And real quick, before we start, I am going to just point out what obviously the full moon in Pisces is going to mean for your sign. And then I'm going to draw one card and what it represents for this full moon, what to focus on. So it's kind of like a focus card. It's a tarot deck that I have here. I'm going to shuffle it, and then I'm just going to leave it, and we're just going to keep pulling cards from the top to kind of be a little bit more on point and with velocity. So Virgo and Virgo rising, the sun and moon connection is going to be expanding the first and the sixth house for you guys. This is when you are releasing a lot of emotions about relationships, but essentially how relationships are impacting you and how you impact other people. There's some kind of story here around your behavior and sort of your action plan where you're starting to see like, I've had enough of this. There's some relationship bonds that might not work for you, and you may have to have even conversations about that, because a part of you is also realizing with Jupiter being in your 8th house that you have to sort of restore trust now, okay, within yourself. Like there's a deep understanding of your own psychology around trust and feeling supported and what that really means for you. And it has to sort of, happen now, because a part of you is confronting some kind of, burdens that have been placed on you that were a lot on you. You had to go through a lot. And these burdens, or these things that have unfolded that were sort of on the emotional, like difficulty, challenges realm, you are now starting to realize how they actually impacted you and what needs to happen now. These patterns, you are more willing and more inclined during this full moon to really let go those patterns. But the first thing that you're doing is you're releasing the idea of how you need to show up in your life. There is a change that is going to occur as it. There's a new action plan, so to speak, that comes out of it. I've had sort of enough of this situation with this person type of energy. Okay. This is what I'm seeing for a lot of the Virgo and Virgo rising friends out there. Now, your card for this month, let me just move on over so I can kind of see everything. All right. So your card for the month is the Chariot card, a very powerful card. This is truly a time where things are moving forward and you have to sort of make a conscious decision to leave a very specific, maybe even traumatic event, maybe a very heartbreaking event in your life behind you now. It's sort of like that's the invitation, because with Black Moon Lilith being in your 12th house, this is going to be, let's do this now. Let's leave this thing behind. Let's not focus on what has happened anymore, because you've already looked at the situation 5 million different ways. And that's the invitation here. That's what I'm seeing also with the Chariot card, right? It's time to move on. It's time to let this thing go. You don't have to stay stuck like this anymore. And that's what I'm seeing here for my Virgo and Virgo rising friends. We're going to be moving on to Libra and Libra rising. This energy is going to unfold between your 12th and your 6th house. Wow. This is going to be a time, I think, where you guys are taking a look really closely and very detailed at your lifestyle and the lifestyle that you are, living. But the way in which this is going to unfold during the full moon in Pisces is it's about getting in touch with your blind spots. It's about understanding yourself a lot better. It is about taking time to do it now, to understand yourself. And although it may feel like, like forever that you're like taking the time to understand, it's just going to be maybe even a couple of days, couple hours, couple weeks. And when you're taking this time, you are understanding situations and what they actually meant for you. Why, when it unfolded the way that they did, how that impacted your lifestyle as a result. Because the 12th house draws the connection to all things. Okay. This could be even your faith and your spirituality, your connection to God. Okay. There could be sort of a missing piece to the puzzle that pops up here for all of the Libra rising friends, Libra sun and rising. But this is going to be like, yeah, I finally get why I've been holding myself back from moving even closer to that lifestyle that I really want. And some things are not meaningful anymore. So you're going to cut those things out of your health routine, out of your self-care routine, maybe even, just making yourself available at night, with certain people, like texting them back, getting into some kind of gossip or stuff that is just meaningless. There's a part of you that doesn't want to make yourself available in that kind of a way anymore, because you start to realize with Jupiter being in your 7th house, making that trine to Black Moon Lilith in the 11th, that partnerships right now are super important. They have to be in connection. You have to have faith together, even with that person. And this is a time that really shows you how you can really benefit in some kind of a way from, each other in partnerships. So some people are going to fall into this category of these themes I just said, where you're going to review, is this a true partnership? Is this something that you really, is this a person that you really have faith in, or is there faith or love even inside of this, connection? And so you could sort of have an experience here that you did not expect by another person that kind of changes the way in which you look at things. And it could be a really good time that if you try to find some clarity, because Jupiter is in the 7th house, to go to someone in your life that is like a coach, like a therapist, somebody that is going to help you even sort through what is the most meaningful to you right now inside of your relationships, like what you need to work out, where you have sort of lost faith or lost sort of a part of you inside of that relationship. Even, there could be some kind of recognition of that is unfolding now, and so you start to realize that, oh yeah, this is the thing that I don't want to do anymore. So you get that help and that support, and you can really help yourself to change your lifestyle as a result of it as well. Because all of those things are going to be, unfolding at the same time. So that is what I'm seeing here for you guys. And then also just having different plans for the future. I think aiming for a different kind of future, because that trine from Jupiter to Black Moon Lilith is going to sort of pivot you in a direction where you're going to start to take on a different kind of confidence as well when it comes to speaking up more about who you are. So that's going to be huge as well. Your spiritual advice card is the Two of Cups. Like I said, many of you this month, this card really represents that you are going to have some really amazing support. If you're looking for it, you're going to get it. If you have that person is readily available to, kind of help you unclutter, and undo some of those things even in your mind about what you thought you needed to maybe be, say, the stuff that happened in the past, putting the picture together and understanding how this impacted your life and your lifestyle as a result. And so then making those necessary changes and moving towards the things that make sense in your life, the relationships that make sense in your life, the relationships that give oxygen back, like it's not just you putting out all of the watts, but you have to also be in a place of receiving. And that's what the Two of Cups is about. So that's what I'm seeing here for all my Libra and Libra rising friends. All right, let's move on to the next sign, which is Scorpio and Scorpio rising. I'm going to grab a sip of water because, first of all, I had too much coffee. And then, secondly, it's like when you're talking so much all the time, when you're putting out, horoscopes, whatever, wow, you have to stay hydrated for sure, you guys. So, Scorpio sun and rising. Where is this unfolding for you guys? Well, the sun is in the 11th, the moon is in the 5th house. This is going to be a time where a lot of you are going to understand that you can't do things all the time by yourself. There is sort of this recognition in a way that comes and pops back into the picture. You realizing that you can't really do things on your own, together it's better. You can't, you can only go so far by yourself, because what's getting highlighted here is the types of groups that you're a part of. And there might also be a group or an association or a group of people that you have had enough of, because it just doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't give you joy. It doesn't make you feel good. And it's time now to start to unpack what is happening in this area. So there is a time now here where I think you're going to start to turn your attention towards all of the groups that help you to expand your social reputation or your social world in a way where it's life-giving and it's not this feeling of just a draining, or a feeling of like where people are just fighting for like a mindset that is just so limiting. It has also to do with a mindset, or it has to do with like how people are approaching certain things. So it gets highlighted here. All right. At the same time, what is getting highlighted is that, is there a situation in your life or a part of your duties at this time, Jupiter being in your 6th house, where you don't have the time to actually do more of the things that you want to do? Jupiter is in the house of duties, 6th house, pointing out a moment here also in your career, which is where Black Moon Lilith is at, where you could be sort of, understanding that your daily routines are impacted, your responsibilities, are impacted in a way where, it has to feel good and it has to be life-giving, but at the same time, you need to be able to do what you want to do as well. And it has to feel good. Okay. Everything becomes a little bit more lively here as a result of this full moon in Pisces. Your lifestyle starts to improve, and so does your mood as well. So you start to realize like the connections between, certain groups of people or even technology that you could be dealing with, or the way in which you're communicating. Like, let's say you're on Zoom a lot, which is where the sun is at 17, gets highlighted here, that, you somehow need to now separate the time of work where you need to be able to show up in a way where you're fueling yourself, and then also open up to your work or your sense of responsibility in a different way. So it all gets sort of illuminated, all these themes that I just, mentioned. And then you start to identify actually what in your life is going to improve or will now start to improve in a sense of physical strength and stamina, because Jupiter is in your sixth house. So this is going to be on the rise. This is going to be sort of a time where you could be experiencing that you're going to get enough energy to get stuff done. This is going to be a pivot point for a lot of you out there. So your spiritual advice card for this particular full moon is the Hanged Man. There is a couple of days before and after this full moon where you will start to understand a certain situation. Couple of people are involved in this, where you will start to understand a certain situation that didn't make sense to you because you didn't quite understand the ambitions or the intentions behind certain actions that have been unfolding for quite some time now. You're going to start to see it now. There's something that's getting exposed. There's something that is sort of coming up to the surface. And the Hanged Man here is just saying, yeah, it's time now. And what you're going to realize is that this is another one of those things where, you noticed a situation, and perhaps this impacted you quite a bit in a way where just things were just didn't feel fun, or they didn't feel good anymore, just because, like, yeah, you don't want to be a part of this group. You don't want to be a part of this, deceptive thing. You sensed it, you couldn't quite figure it out, but now you're going to start to get to the bottom of it, and it's huge because it's just going to be life-giving. Many of you, I've put out actually a special message for you on my podcast that is good for about 6-7 months. Go listen to it, because a lot of you, all of the stuff that I just said is going to be leading up actually to a decision making that is going to up level responsibilities, or it's going to change the game in the way in which you're going to either do something in your career, or if it's a hobby, it's going to change the game there, because a lot of you are going to start to realize like what type of group or what type of energy you want to now be a part of. You have to observe, and that is what this full moon is going to highlight. You're observing, you're getting closer to it, and then bam, you see what this was about, and then you start to recognize you want to change things now. So you start to take some steps towards it. And of course, with Jupiter being in the sixth house, you're going to get the help to kind of change your lifestyle around the way that you want to. So that is for Scorpio, sun and rising. Let's move on to Libra. No, Sagittarius. You guys, I am like too much coffee this morning. Okay. I'm definitely still feeling it. So Sagittarius, sun and rising. Where is this unfolding for you? Okay. The sun is in your 10th house. This is the house of your career, legacy building. Okay. This is the direction of your life that you're taking. Where is the moon? The moon is going to be in the opposite house, the fourth house. So this is going to be about what you feel comfortable doing and what you don't feel comfortable doing. But for many of you, this is going to be about you understanding. So there's two scenarios here, okay? Because it's not going to be the same for every Sagittarius out there, but a lot of you are going to start to recognize a pattern that isn't healthy when it comes to your job, when it comes to what that does with you at home and what you bring home all the time. You might be bringing the stresses of what is happening in your job to your house. You might just be working from your house, right? Like there could be a scenario here where you're now starting to realize this situation and this like pattern is just bad. It's draining. It's not good for you anymore. It just sort of highlights it now with this full moon in Pisces. And you are having a huge release when it comes to your emotions through either your job or somebody even in your job or some type of situation where you start to realize like I've had enough. You realize that you've had enough and you are going to pivot now. You're no longer comfortable with that kind of a situation because for a lot of you, Jupiter is in the fifth house. So your heart and what brings you a good vibe is really supported at this time. Jupiter being in the fifth house is also sort of pointing out, like, you know, I need to smile more often. I have courage here that I want to apply in my life. And this is a time to raise the definition of what it means to have fun, what it means to smile more often, what it means to be fully you, the fully expressed version of you. And of course, the fifth house isn't just only, you as a person. It can also include you within your children, with your children, right? You with your partner, like romantic sort of outlets or expressions. It's just all the things that you love, right? Jupiter is in that fifth house. And so you are right now in this place, I think, where you're starting to realize like what's holding you back from doing that. And it ties into patterns and behaviors, things that are playing out that you are in control of. Like that is what's really important to remember here. Now, for some of you, what's happening as well at the same time after this full moon, and I just want to say this, there is more love coming your way, but there are a lot of things like sort of an undoing that is happening at the same time. Every single one of these full moons, as long as Jupiter is in Aries in your fifth house, every single one of these full moons is helping you understand how to increase love in your life. And if you are single as a Sagittarius, I do want to say that this might be a time where you're going to have a really special connection to somebody else that helps you sort of, you know, deepen your understanding of love and joy with this person. There is a very special sort of meaningful relationship that could come out of this Jupiter and Aries transit, where this person helps you also understand who you are and what you want to do more of in your life, what really, rings true to you, the deepest parts of your, of your life, and how to bring that out more, how to really pave that way. That is another thing that is going to be growing every single one of these, full moons for you guys. So this is a big time. What is your spiritual advice card? You have the Nine of Cups. Love that. We love the Nine of Cups. What's the Nine of Cups? Nine of Cups is a time that signifies, all things around happiness. We just talked about it. And whatever it is that's in the way of you living happier, more at peace, more in a way where, you just bring sort of an awareness to your career and your legacy, you can come closer to being happy, right? You have to sort of take a look at what's happening in your career because the spotlight may be on you right now. And what are some of the patterns, though, that are not going to be working for you? And as a result, they kind of block the direction of your life. And so happiness could be attached to that. Nine of Cups. This is a time that if you really focus on identifying these themes I just mentioned, you can have a huge sort of release here that could come as a result of it. that lets you have a new direction, or at least hope in a new direction. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing for Sagittarius, sun and rising. Now we're going to move on to Capricorn, sun and rising. This moon is going to unfold between your ninth and your third house. So, what's the ninth house? The ninth house is about learning experiences, how we observe by, learning something that kind of lets us feel something different, be something different. This has also a lot of times to do with philosophical sort of um, immersions, times where you are more interested in philosophy. And this is also a house that kind of can indicate outdoor activities, guys, because sometimes when I'm kind of working with clients, I often see that this house has to do with the outdoors or nature, or the kind of wisdom that nature has to offer. Okay. So you could be experiencing these types of themes at this time as well. So, the metaphysical, okay? The metaphysical, the spiritual, and even for some of you, a particular religion that could be of importance at this time. So, what is happening here? Well, there is sort of a huge release that the sun is causing between the third house. Like, there are blockages maybe in your mindset, or there are certain things that you want to get out, but you don't know how to, speak about it. And then they directly impact how you actually go about your daily sort of responsibilities, but it has to do with how you communicate, how close you are to everything within your vicinity, in your environment. Okay. But it also is an impact on mindset. So for all the Capricorn people out there, this is going to be a time where you're having a huge release on what it means to, connect with people via, your mindset, and what you say and what you don't say. And there might also be a time where you just are engaging in some kind of, whether it's via text, social media, some form of writing, or within your immediate environment, you could be getting into a situation where you have had enough and you are going to start to take sort of a new approach to the situation because it is faithless, or you don't like the energy that's behind it. And so you want to change it. And so, of course, for many of you, with Jupiter being in the fourth house, you have sort of uh, a place to recharge, which is going to be your home, because the fourth house can also mean home, comfort with how things have unfolded in your life so far, making kind of peace with the past comes into picture at this time as well. The past, the present, and the now. And that plays a role with this full moon in Pisces, because your upbringing sort of, it teaches you how to approach the situation right now that has to do with your mindset in a way where it creates more peace for you. So something gets highlighted here that matters, that you need to do more of, or you're going to strengthen this aspect of your life within your home so that you can deal with certain situations within your environment more, or your mindset, the way in which you're speaking, or the way in which you're connecting, the way in which even things like connection between things. This is a huge thing as well. Things that didn't make sense before, you're now connecting the dots, that certain aspects are connected, whether it's relationships that matter, like people that you're working with, but then there's also sort of a new understanding that comes out of it, and it has a lot to do with the spiritual aspect or the metaphysical aspect as well that I just said. So your mind is expanding as a result of this little bit of this challenge of like, oh yeah, this is the blockage. This is what I am not, this is what I didn't see before. And now I'm seeing it, and I understand, you need a time out in a way. Or this full moon could be creating a timeout for a lot of you, where you start to realize like you can't involve yourself in this situation anymore, but you have to speak up. Like, it's a time of just saying what it is that you feel as well. So, all right, the Knight of Swords. This is your card for this full moon. The Knight of Swords is always a signification of change. It's always a time where it's also the way like you think, because the swords has to do with thinking. It's air. Swords and the cards represent air. So it's a time of rethinking things, but quickly. Perhaps before you were stuck in this area, but now with this full moon, you get the opportunity to make the changes necessary in your mindset and your attitude and sort of the approaches. And it's going to be welcomed. Okay. So whatever comes up, know that it is going to help you ultimately bring more peace into your life. All right. We're going to move on to Aquarius. I'm going to drink a little bit more water, you guys. And also, if you are here in on the live, drop in to the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I always love hearing from you guys. And sometimes, you guys, I just want to say this as well. A little disclaimer. Sometimes I talk really fast and I take a look at my notes and I go back and forth on the screen. So if I'm saying something that we're taking a look at on the chart, but it wasn't quite, quite like if I was ahead of the game or whatever, or if I'm saying something, just bear with me that wasn't quite aligned with the chart, because I'm just jumping back and forth between screens. So sometimes, I have to calm things down, get back to what it is that I'm looking at, because there's a lot going on. Well, hi, Nina. Good to see you too. Tuning in from London. How are things in London right now? Last time I was in London, it was like, I don't know. I think it was in 2017. That's when I was in London. 2017. And my God, I rented a car. I'd never driven in London before. I rented a car in London, you guys, and it was an experience. I'm so glad I survived. And if you take the wrong turn, does this ever happened? Well, obviously, you live in London, but the thing that I experienced is if I took a wrong turn somewhere, it took me twice as long to get back to that spot to kind of find my way, like, because everything is on the left side. The steering wheel is on the other side, right or left. I can't remember. Right. It's on the right side. So I'm glad I survived that time. It's very busy during that time. Yes. So Nina says, driving, it's really hot in London right now. Yeah. Actually, I was talking to my mom yesterday and she's in Germany and she was telling me it's really hot over there too. Yes. So driving in London is full on for you as well. It's definitely, I feel like when you survive driving in London, you should get a medal. Like, here's a medal for you because you survived the roads. All right. So we're going to move on to, first of all, thank you for sharing that, Nina. We're going to move on to Aquarius, sun and rising. So for you guys, this sun moon connection is going to be happening between the 8th and the 2nd house. The 8th house essentially is about understanding your own psyche, and when it comes to commitments that then also create attachments. So you could be attached to the wrong things during this time, and that's what is getting highlighted. And then as a result, they impact your productivity, or they impact the way in which you make money, or they impact money in general. Okay. So this is a time of sort of self-inquiry work related to money, attachments, and power, the misuse of power. Something might be overpowering you. Some situation might be overpowering you. And so you have a huge release here. When it comes to that, you might be wanting to be productive in a particular way. You might want a physical thing in your life. Like you want to really buy this car, or you want to, really be able to financially do something, or just if it's not financial, it can be producing something, like being productive in a particular area, and you just can't get there because now you understand the attachments that create sort of a very specific burden in the psyche, or you might not even think that way, but it like creates this burden feeling. So there is a release of emotions that come in because a part of you is like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this situation is hopeless. So there's a pivot point that is going to happen here. And where do you pay attention? Like how do you, overcome this? Well, you want to look in the direction of Jupiter. Jupiter helps you understand your thoughts and your mindsets and how and what you do in the day to day. Okay. So how you're applying your mind and what it is that you're doing every day from the moment you get up until you go to bed. The other thing I want to just say here, it might be really useful to journal during this time, or to find sort of a setting that disconnects you from your particular environment that you're in, and you go to a different environment, because Jupiter is in Aries. So Aries is all about like, let's do something new. Let's go somewhere else where, it's life-giving, because Aries is about life-giving things. It has to feel new. It has to feel like you are the first to do it, or that sense that like, I'm the first to do this. I'm the first to go to this cafe from everybody else that is in my environment. Like, I'm going to go sit there. I usually go sit here with everybody. I'm going to go sit there and I'm going to journal. I'm going to talk about what it is that I need to, talk about. So a shift in your environment might really do well during this full moon in Pisces. And so Jupiter helps you understand your thoughts here, your mindset, and then also puts a different kind of effort into the day to day as a result. So that kind of can be a situation where you're now going to start to draw a bigger connection on how to overcome this situation that creates this burden in your life. Okay. So this might be a really good thing to pay attention to. Now, the other thing that I do want to say here is that you could be in a place where you're just starting to believe in yourself and how you think for the first time differently. You may have noticed that, like, the way in which you were thinking was based on this, like, heaviness of this burden thing that you had, or this attachment in your life that might even still be going on right now. But because you're releasing those emotions, you start to realize, like, I believe in myself differently now. I believe in my thoughts and the way in which I think so differently now. And it's refreshing, sort of like spring, in your mind. So this is a very impactful full moon in that kind of a way. So anything that supports these themes I just mentioned, you want to turn your attention to that. Now, the card for this full moon in Pisces is the Four of Pentacles. Again, we talked about attachments. We talked about things we're holding on to. And the way I am interpreting this, many of you have seen this card before. He's holding on to tightly to something that he thinks is really, really valuable. And I want to remind you, Aquarius, this is going to be a time of, Virgo season is, it's sharp, it's edgy, it's sort of a little bit cold to the touch, but this is a time where you can really detach from things that they're just blah, they're gray. They're not life-given, and you don't have to put up with it. That's what the Four of Pentacles, I feel like, for a lot of you are all about. Anything that's not life-giving anymore, anything that is not, providing a good sort of outcome for you, especially in your mind, especially in the way that you think about money, productivity, things that you're trying to, like, attain in life. Bye. That's what the Four of Pentacles basically represents here. Like, it's time for you to let those things go, because I think a lot of you were still holding on based on you felt like you had to. That's what the eighth house is about. The eighth house is like, I have to do this. Like, I have to stay loyal all the way to the end. And perhaps what you're seeing for the first time is that you don't have to. You don't have to stay loyal to a situation that feels miserable or not life-giving. And that's what I see that the full moon is bringing for you guys. So let's move on to the next sign. That is Pisces, Pisces sun and rising. Okay, so Pisces sun and rising, obviously for you guys, different from Virgo rising, it flip-flops, right? So the sun is in the 7th house. The moon is in the 1st house. 6th house or 7th house, this is going to be your bond to other people. Okay, all of the relationships that really matter, all of the relationships that are sort of, creating a connection or a bonding, so to speak. And so your needs are getting highlighted here. You might just during this full moon get either a validation that your needs are being met by sort of you realizing something very important about yourself, but it gets challenged in a situation because it's the 1st house. It's like how you present yourself. So there's a bit of a challenge, but you get validated that like your needs are being met or the needs are not being met in a specific relationship. This can be any relationship. It doesn't have to be just romantic. It doesn't have to be just marriage. And so now you have to dig in a little bit more as to what's missing. So this is really important. Like, what is missing? Why is it the way that it is? And what are your necessities? And perhaps you have not realized this before. Remember that Neptune is going to be alongside with this moon, kind of letting you see something that you had not maybe realized and noticed before. So for you guys, this is really, really nice. Now, the other thing I think that is going to be unfolding here for a lot of you is at the same time as this full moon is happening, Jupiter being in the 2nd house, this is going to be you gaining some clarity, not only within your needs in relationships, but then as a result, also, you get clarity around money and stuff that you need and want. Okay. Both. You need it because Virgo season. You want it because it's Jupiter and Aries. You want it, right? So perhaps it's the first time that you're saying to yourself, I'm going to self-indulge. I'm going to no longer do this thing that I usually do where I'm like, you go first. You have that thing first. Or, somebody else sort of, constantly you're watching somebody else who is a bit more self-indulgent at what you like, but they're kind of for the first time representing a part of you that you just don't allow even at all in a way. And so luxurious things or self-indulgent things or things where productivity gets pushed even more into a place where you really like it. Like this is something that you would want and something that you need. And so it gets highlighted during this time as well. So you could achieve more. You could achieve more in the material realm or in the realm of just you understanding your needs within, your relationships pushes kind of your achievements out more or your goals into a direction where you could provide a lot more comfort for yourself. So a direction gets paved as a result of it. That's what I'm seeing for a lot of the Pisces friends. Yep. The cards are always they're always aligned, It's not me, you guys. It's the cards. It's when we come together into these readings, that's just how it goes. King of Pentacles. Yeah. This is about you just understanding where you want to become a lot more goal oriented or a lot more, successful. And it's okay to think that way. It's okay to be that person, and that you can leave sort of this idea behind that you constantly have to portray yourself as this person like, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't have people look at me that way, or there's a validation of some sort that comes through that is so powerful in the way in which you are going to be, kind of taking on new sets of, goals that represent achievements and self-indulgence a bit more, and things that you will enjoy because they make you feel good and they provide more comfort, but it comes through the physical sense. King of Pentacles. So that's what I'm seeing here for, Pisces. Let's move to Aries. Sun and rising. Aries. Okay. So, Aries, this is going to unfold between your 6th and the 12th house. Well, the 6th house, I always say, this is the management of your lifestyle, but I also call it like the obstacle course. You know, the 6th house is an obstacle course in a way because, like, if you think about it, the moment you wake up until you go to bed, there's stuff that has to get managed in your lifestyle. There's stuff that you need to do, from like cutting your food and preparing your food to, going to work and like managing the organization at your work desk, or whatever else comes with it, self-care stuff, AM routines, PM routines, how even take in your food. That could be a part of this, management of your lifestyle. So the sun is illuminating here that there is work that needs to get done, and you're working out all the necessary sort of details, and it is so that you can streamline your duties. Okay, so there are some things in your day to day that are your responsibility at this time, but perhaps it's your co-worker's responsibility. So you've had enough, you got to say something about it, because it's just not fair. Like, this is not something that you need to continue to do. And so with the moon being in the 12th house, this also highlights perhaps a part of yourself where, you're starting to see that you want something more out of your daily lifestyle routines and the management of your life. You want something a bit more, something more meaningful, something less superficial, less dull. You need to like bring in a change here, and that's sort of the feeling that could be, rising up. And so you're having important conversations with important people about that, because let's not forget that Mercury is in Libra. I do want to mention this for you, Aries, because it is in your 7th house. We're going to talk about that in your individual horoscope a little bit more. But, here you are sort of expanding that conversation. Now, what also is expanding is Jupiter in the 1st house in Aries, in your sign. Right now, you guys really have the power to get anything you want. Anything you want. Jupiter is on your side. It's in your sign. And so who you are, the person that you are, is expanding into such different, directions. You're getting to know yourself on a whole nother level. Okay. That is what Jupiter in Aries is really all about here. And I think that you're expanding not only as an individual, but you're also outgrowing some judgments that have been sort of placed on you through various different experiences. Jupiter in Aries is going to bring a breath of fresh air when it comes to like letting go of those judgments. And then especially during this, full moon in Pisces, you're going to be in this place where you just have had enough. Like, you don't want the superficial thing anymore. You have to release those emotions. You might even speak up about it. You're going to do things very differently. And when you guys actually make a change, it's quick, because that's your style. So you're going to, outgrow some of those, judgments that have been sort of, placed on you from a past time. And then the other thing I think that is going to happen here, and I just want to pull your is that you are going to be recognized by the right people. I mean, King of Wands. King of Wands is you really stepping into you. Feels good. You really doing something now where you get the right kind of attention, and that right kind of attention makes you deepen your conversations at this time in a way where stuff is going to unfold as a result of it. There might be a new sort of future you're going to live into, but right now it really is about you getting that recognition for the work that you have put in, because you guys have been putting in a lot of work, but just by Jupiter being, in Aries in the 1st house. And so this is sort of a recognition that fuels even more sort of energy towards the things that you want to do for yourself now. But then as a result of it, they also change the way in which you impact your life at this time. So that's what I'm seeing here for Aries. Sun and rising. Let's put the chart back up because we're going to be moving on to Taurus, Taurus sun and rising. Okay, Taurus sun and rising. Really interesting time for all of the Tauruses. The sun is in the fifth house. The moon is going to be in the 11th house. The fifth house is essentially, the house of joy. We cover this a lot. It's the house of joy, but right now it is going to be you understanding what you need to let go of when it comes to certain groups in your life that you are a part of, certain friends even that you have connections to at this time, where it just doesn't feel alive anymore. You could have this moment where you just are in this place, that certain friends or certain support systems in your life are no longer going to be a part of your life anymore because they're just too superficial. They don't support you in a way that you prefer. And it's like there's a chapter that's closing. Now, I feel for many of you that it might not even be that sad to you because for whatever reason, many of you have gone through this experience lately where you know that your life is taking on such a different meaning. And the way in which you define your purpose, even like what brings you purpose in your life, what brings you truly that joy in your life, that whole entire definition is changing so much that it might not even feel like this is a sad time for you when you're disconnecting from certain groups. You might just disconnect from sets of responsibilities that you have within those groups. That can be another thing that I am seeing. And you're going to focus more on bringing more love into your life. You're going to focus more on romantic relationships. You're going to focus more on your kids. You're going to focus more on the things that, you want to do. You vibe with it, and if it doesn't bring you joy, why do it in the first place? That's the sun in the fifth house, So you're going into the details of those themes that I just mentioned. Now, Jupiter is going to be in your 12th house, and this is a powerful transit. You might not see the physical evidence of Jupiter obviously being in Aries in the 12th house. You're not going to see the physical evidence at first because it's on such a spiritual level. But Jupiter in the 12th house at this time is going to bring all facets of your life into a whole new picture and into a whole new meaning, which is what we talked about. In a confrontational way, in a way where you are more likely to confront these aspects of your life because Jupiter in Aries is really life-giving. And so you have the energy to deal with these situations because you come into it less from a subjective kind of way, but more in an objective way. Like you have the energy to deal with certain things that happened in the past, that happened up until this point, that really impacted you and impacted the kind of meaning of your life. And so you are processing these emotions, and there's sort of a worldview that's changing because of it as well. And let's not forget, we have Black Moon Lilith in the fourth house. So you start to see some things that are connected to upbringing, some things in your home life that were connected to it. Your relationship to your mother could play a role here, or to females in your life that were, helping in your childhood or helping you to kind of, grow up. That kind of definition could come up as well, where you're able to look at yourself and the world with a more direct opinion now, and you're more honest about, okay, yeah, this is how I feel. Perhaps I wasn't telling the truth to myself about that, but because you're going at it now with such a nice sort of, confrontational way, you are able to shift things in your life and expose the areas of your mind and mindsets, conversations, especially at this time where you're like, yeah, I need to walk away from this. And this person needs to walk away from me. But it's a more in a direct way, more in a confrontational way. Okay. And also self-sabotage is another thing with the Seven of Swords. that you want to keep in mind. You might be sabotaging yourself because you want, or you realize that you have this self-sabotage situation going on because you're constantly making excuses for this group of people, this situation, this person that, impacted kind of the way in which you were viewing your life from way back then. So you're getting clarity around that. But it's a time where you're going to start to realize that, hey, I need to take on this new meaning now, and I have to cut this thing out. So you guys are going to be walking away from something. Also, watch out for a conversation that is going to come up around the full moon where it feels like the other person wants to trap you into or corner you in a way, have you say something that could potentially either taken in a way and used against you. So you want to watch out for that. Okay. So make sure that your conversations, you're understanding the intention of other people. Okay. This is going to be really important. All right. So let me drink a little bit of water. We're going to add the chart back in. Gemini, sun and rising. Where is this unfolding for you guys? Well, Gemini, sun and rising, the sun is in the 4th house and the moon is going to be in the 10th house, your house of legacy. The sun in the 4th is your personal life. It is your home life. It is your family. It can also encompass your parents. This is everything in your familiar sort of surroundings and a place of safety that you are operating from. So the sun is here giving you a really good feel, a really good place of recharge. Okay. It's like a recharge right here for you right now. Now, with the moon being in the 10th house, you are taking a look at a situation at work that is just so silly. That's the way I would describe it. Okay. It's just so silly. You might not even be fully immersed and involved in this whole entire situation, but there's just certain things that are happening that's kind of like, why are you guys like that? Why are you focusing on these details that really do not matter at the end of the day type of situation? So you may have had enough. You may come to a point where you start to realize that you're going to start to speak up about this kind of a thing. You need to say something in regards to how this impacts you in your job or even the execution of your job. Something like this could come up during this time. And so, it's going to be, I feel like for you, a lot of you, it's going to feel a little bit like out of control and a little bit silly, but just know that because, Mercury is, Mercury is going to be in this funky place that you cannot count on what people are saying to you during this time. Just know not to take it seriously. That's another thing. Don't take things seriously because things are still going to change. And I think a lot of you are going to intuit that. Now, Jupiter is going to be in your 11th house. And of course, Jupiter's transit is for a whole year. But right now, during this full moon in Pisces, everything you do in group settings are going to benefit you greatly. So even though you have the situation maybe unfolding at work, whatever groups that you are part of, and if it's also tying into your work, those group settings are going to benefit you at this time, whatever it is that you're doing, because you can really pave the way to do things very differently. Okay. That is another thing that you guys need to know right now. You can do things like so differently, and you are the person that might just lead and pave the way to implement those things. So this is a huge plus for you guys. The other thing I want to say with Jupiter in the 11th house is that challenges that are occurring within friends, groups, or people that are really like-minded, they create a great sort of conversation and a great benefit to understand yourself and who you are as an individual. Because let's not forget that Jupiter is in Aries. So it is about who you are. It is about your identity and identifying where people look at you maybe in a way where they don't take you I don't want to say seriously, that's not the word, but they don't respect what you have to bring to the plate. That is another thing that comes up here for you, Gemini. They may just sort of, you start to recognize, or you have recognized before, like these people don't respect what I have to bring to the plate, but now that is going to change. There's a pivot point. There is a confidence that starts to pour into this, and you benefit from this so greatly on such personal, like development kind of a way. What is your card for the full moon? The Six of Pentacles. Yeah, it's about giving and receiving. It has to be equal. And that's a conversation I think that you're going to dive into during this full moon in Pisces. Now, let's move on to the next sign. Wow, I didn't intend for this report to be this long, but we can never plan exactly. It's just we're just going to flow with it. All right. Cancer, sun, and rising. Where is this unfolding for you? The third and the ninth house. So for you, Cancer, the attention turns into your immediate environment. The attention turns into speaking to all sorts of people. Like, you guys are going to be super busy at this time. Now, why are you busy? Because there's all sorts of text messages flying around. There's all sorts of engagements that are happening, maybe even on social media, that you are going to somehow be a part of, voluntarily or involuntarily. This can also include gossip, you guys. You might be like, there might be gossip that gets highlighted, and then like your phone blows up about it. And so you get these messages about it. Okay. Those are the types of scenarios that could be playing out here. And then this is a time where you might find yourself wanting to share with someone more than usual to kind of create a different kind of connection. Like, let's say that the information that you're getting, you're like, is this true? I really need to go ask the person. And you are less likely to have a conversation with this person. Like, usually you would not have a connection with this person, but now you're going to go ask this person because you're just so curious. Like, this can't be true. There's more to the picture. There's more to the story, and you want to find out. So that's what's happening here in the third house with the sun's transit there. Now, the moon being in the ninth house, this is you understanding like what it is that you are willing to believe right away and what it is that you're not willing to believe right away. And also, I just want to point this out. There could be someone involved here in this, situation that is usually like a teacher or a leader of some sort that now also gets exposed in a way. Something like that could be happening. Just look out for that. Okay. It might not be a particular person, but it could bring that kind of a thing, as up as well. But ultimately, your mindset, the way in which you're talking, your efficiency and how you're handling these types of things are going to improve. Now, Jupiter is for you guys in the 10th house. So right now, think profession, think of your profession, and think of your legacy. And these two themes are going to expand exponentially at this time. You are going to have a pivot point here in the confidence and the direction of your life that you're taking, Cancer. You are going to, make sure that your actions, are going to now further your direction of your life, or further sort of the legacy. But here's what's really important. This is what you need to keep in mind. Okay. As you are paving sort of a new direction in your life, you have to make sure that the directions that you're taking, or the actions that you're taking, are not undermining other people. You might not be doing this on purpose, but you want to make sure that if there's other people involved in this, you're asking extra questions. You can intuitively guide your way through this portion, but you want to understand other people and where they're at, and allow for them to be a part of your life. Allow for yourself to open up so that they're a part of the success that you're creating when it comes to your profession, when it comes to your legacy. Because one of the things that can happen here with Jupiter being in a fire sign like this, and especially for you in the 10th house, like, it can be a time where like you're achieving a lot, and then other people sort of look at this situation and go, well, I wanted to be a part of, like, why am I left out of this situation? So make sure that the most important people come along on this journey, on this direction of life that you're taking. And so this gets highlighted during the full moon as well. The full moon in Pisces, this gets highlighted as well. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. Yeah, so that you are not celebrating kind of in a way at the end where you're like, yeah, I didn't realize that. But now, it's created that kind of a vibe and kind of an energy. So for a lot of the cancers right now, you are going to be in this place where I think you can really just do things very differently. You can have impacts in a way in which you're talking to people and also just handling certain things in a more efficient way. And what gets your time and what doesn't get your time, especially if there's gossip involved. Your card for this month is the 10 of Swords. We just talked about gossip and then the 10 of Swords came up. There's some people that just come into the picture at this time in your life from a place of feeling so there's something there, like there's a limiting way in which they're viewing things, and they might be focusing on the wrong things that are just dead. These conversations are dead. Something else has to be done. Something else has to be said. Something else has to be, given an opportunity. And these patterns and strategies are being brought to you so that you can implement them. That's what I'm seeing here for Cancer, Sun and Rising. All right, our last sign we're going to go through, Leo, Sun and Rising. Let's do it. Leo, Sun and Rising. A little bit more water. All right, you guys. Leo, Sun and Rising. This is going to happen between your second and your eighth house. And so what is this about? It's about money right now. It is about everything that you own right now. All your real estate, your car, everything that you own. Okay. It can have to do with some of you about productivity as well. Okay. Just like, does this thing make sense money wise in my life? Everything that you value, whether it is kind of physical or not, it is in the second house. That's the highlight right now. This is where the sun empowers you to kind of bring more sort of efficiency in, details in that help you to become more productive, that help you to take a stand for the stuff that are like really worth it in your life, or that you are worth it. Like you are worth it to do this. You are worth it to have more money. You're worth it to create this thing and be productive in this kind of a way and receive this kind of a money. There's an increase of that is going to be highlighted, or the need for that increase that is going to be highlighted here. Now, the eighth house has to do with the way in which other people also commit to you. Somehow this ties into some of the really important relationships in your life. You could be sharing certain things with other people, and it now gets highlighted here. So you have to release these emotions. Like for a lot of you, I feel like it's going to come up suddenly. You may not like realize certain things right now that that have been going on at such a deep level in your very own psychology, in your very own, psyche. You're like, oh, you know, maybe I'm not comfortable sharing my life with you in this kind of a way. Like, and then why is that coming up? There might be some blockages that get highlighted here, that gets pushed up, where you're like, yeah, this is why I feel so, sort of defeated in this area of my life. But it's nothing too big. Like the overcoming can happen so quickly, just because, this is the sun's transit in the second house is really giving life right now for you to understand what's essential, and then coming back to those intentions that you have when it comes to, well, all things that you value. So make sure that you pay attention to like the things in your life that are, creating that kind of a sense for you right now, where, yeah, do you have these blockages? You're noticing them now. Let's deal with them. That's a really good approach during this time. Now, the other thing that I want to point out to you, Leo, is that Jupiter is in the ninth house for you. So at the time of the full moon, you are going to be raising your awareness about what it really means to be a human in this world and what's on the agenda during this time. Okay. So you could be in this place where maybe you are expanding now what it is that you believe about what's possible for you in stuff that you're trying to put out there into the world about how you believe, what it is that you think. And you could be sort of at a time where you're now going to review, okay, I need to replace this belief with something new. It's like over now what I used to believe about this certain aspect or this particular outlook on life. And it's changing now. Jupiter in Aries is changing this area for you up quite nicely, because what you believe or what you used to believe is going to get sort of exchanged with things that feel like, yeah, I want to gain that awareness. I want to do this thing. And it could be through a learning experience right now that you're making. And it's just something brand new, something you had not considered in your life before, but it also ties into money making. It ties into things that you value. And so these are the types of themes that you're taking a look at the time of the full moon in Pisces. Your card for this full moon is the Five of Swords. Beautiful card. Why? Because the Five of Swords is a time where you start to realize that, the way in which you used to think about your own, value is changing in a way where you don't have to constantly look over your shoulder and fear that somebody is going to try to come get it from you now, which ties into where the moon placement is going to be, right? Pisces is going to be in the eighth house for you. So what I'm saying here is that you start to make this realization during the full moon in Pisces that there's a part of you that perhaps was impacted by trust issues or impacted in the way in which you were relying on other people in such a way that it stripped you of productivity, it stripped you of money, it has stripped you of like just being able to just live life where you're providing more comfort in a way. So these things are going to get highlighted, but they're also highlighted because there's a part of you that realizes that your beliefs are now changing about what's possible. That is what I'm seeing for a lot of Leo and Leo rising friends. I know it was a lot. We just kind of went deep into that, but that is what I'm seeing for you guys at this time. So it's a really nice transit to kind of just expose this area about yourself. Like, why do you have those trust issues and how can you restore some of that? Because there's some people probably in your life right now that may not even know how you have been impacted in this kind of a way, just because this catches you by surprise as well. So it's important to communicate about that. All right, you guys, if you've made it all the way to the point of the video here, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for all of the listening that you are giving me, and also just being on this channel, subscribing. All my new people, thank you so much for being here. Again, if you're here for the first time, let's hang out, subscribe, ring the bell. If you loved today's video, give it a like, share it with the people in your life that, could benefit from this. And then I'm going to be back doing another episode for your horoscope. So make sure that you check those out as well, because there's so much more that's happening this month. Mars is in Gemini, and then Mercury retrograde. There's a lot to unpack. So we're going to talk about it for you individually a little bit more as to what that might mean for you. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will be providing timestamps so that you can come back and watch every sign that's applicable to you. Again, thank you so much for being here, and I am going to see you guys in the next episode. Bye.